I guess I started off with this one, but is there any misconceptions you want to clear up about yourself, or I think you already
Well,
got this one, but
look, if people think I'm a racist, anti-Semite, whatever, just read what I write, okay? Just really read what I write, okay? Um, uh, yeah, I think Israel should disappear. I don't think that's anti-Semitic. That is that anti-Semitic? No, I don't think so, because that is an illegal, criminal uh, country that's propped up by us. Because if left to his own device, he would disappear tomorrow. So we are complicit in this ongoing criminal society. It was founded on false premise and is maintained by terrorism. I mean, it's a terrorist country. Okay, so that's not anti-Semitic. And when I talk about black crimes, come on, man. I mean, every American knows, that you don't move to like Camden or Gary, Indiana. Okay, so why is that racist to talk about black crime? And and black people, let's put it this way. Um, they, they, I mean, if they were able to compete, um, for example, I mean, uh, if they were able to get into universities without special treatment, then why do you need, affirmative action? Why do you have to lower test scores to get them to police department or fire, fire departments? You know what I'm saying? I mean, why do you have to treat them, lower the standards for them? Okay, obviously they cannot compete. Okay, and you and I can go on about why they are at a disadvantage. But in every society where you have blacks and whites, blacks are unable to compete in many areas. Okay, and by pointing that out, I'm just pointing out the obvious, because the people who are defending blacks are also pointing out these failures, but they blame it on white racism. Whereas
right.
I
So
suspect, yeah,
so
right.
that's the thing. In your book, Postcards from the End of America, I wrote this down actually. You had talked to a janitor or the handyman, and basically it's a pretty stereotypical story. He's a refugee. He came with nothing but the shirt on his back, and this is most of my Vietnamese friends and their families growing up, and they work their fucking asses off, doing shitty jobs, doing jobs that they're, like the guy in your book, I think, yeah, he was working on oil rigs, and he's going wherever he could to get his kids into a nice school so that his kids could escape. Whereas this never happens with Africans, and you see this with, well, this is kind of the debate, and this is kind of the I guess you could call it a conservative, the civic nationalist people who say, it's just the culture, da da da. But it is true. I mean, part of it, you see Nigerians and stuff who come and they don't have any of that baggage or brainwashing. They say, dude, you know how lucky you are? And then they get all these, they start to kind of utilize all of these programs like the affirmative action, and they get really good grades and everything. Still, though, this is the thing that people don't go even further, because even with those people, they still don't perform as well as Asians. And that's where you do at a certain level, you have to admit that there is a genetic difference. But yeah, I mean, blacks were better off before because they didn't have all this BS. Like I think you said that too, that in their if they could go to their own community, then maybe it would thrive. But right now, they'll just go to the Asian liquor store owner, because he's gonna come on time. He has a hard work ethic and whatever other elements. Um, I think yeah, it's just a taboo. So yeah, people should just read what you write, and in your books you interview people of all different races, and they speak for themselves.
But
So
Mike, here's the thing too, man. I never meet like a person and say, hey, he's this, he's that. I try to, just deal with a person as an individual. Okay, so it doesn't matter if he's black or whatever, or whatever. I try to treat people as an individual, and I let him or her reveal himself to me. Okay, so I don't come with like, okay, I'm not gonna talk to this guy. I hate this guy. I'm never like that. All right, and for my postcard book. I travel, and not just for my book, because a lot of the postcards did not make it into the book. But I would go to black communities just to see what it was like. I hang out in black bars just to see what it was. Because I was curious and because I enjoyed it. Okay, I mean, it wasn't because some weird like project. I mean, like when I was in Philly, I would go to Point Breeze to there's a bar called Sit on It. I love to sit there because the people are nice. So it's not like I have some animosity towards them, but I also realize Point Breeze is a very bad place to hang out after dark, for example. Because of the crime level. All right, so I can speak candidly about these issues, but at the same time, treat people fairly as I expect them to treat me. Okay. For example, I'll give you a couple examples. I went to Trenton. Okay, Trenton is a pretty black city by now, and you know, in the ghetto, sometimes it's very hard to find a bar because it's just not worth it to open a bar in the ghetto, right? So I found a place that had takeout beer, and I asked the guy, there was something that resembled a bar. So I said, well, was there a bar here? And the guy who ran it was an Indian, right? Or no, I think maybe he was Middle East, but he wasn't. I'm getting confused by another place. But anyway, he was Middle Easterner. He wasn't black. He had a place in the ghetto, and he was selling takeout beer. And he said, yeah, he had a bar here, but there was so much trouble, that he said it wasn't worth it. So you hear stuff like that. Okay, that's one example. For example, I went to South Carolina, and that's where I met an Indian, a South Asian Indian, opening a bar, and he said that he will not let anyone in under 35 because they would fight. So, you hear stuff like this, troubles from young black men. I'm not saying every young black man is trouble, but I'm saying there's enough of a pattern here that it's just, and it shows up everywhere. It shows up in prison. Okay, so I'm not saying like most young black men are bad or evil or criminals. I'm just saying enough of them cause troubles that that it hurts their own communities. Okay, so. And you don't see that, for example, in poor white neighborhoods. And I've visited many poor white neighborhoods. You just don't feel the sense of menace, okay, of destruction or self-destruction, okay. And so I report what I see, but when I meet a person, I try to be like a decent person, because I want to be treated fairly too, and that's that, So. So people who have issues with some of my conclusions or some of my observation should read me very carefully before branding me a Nazi or whatever, because well, if that's how you think, then maybe we can't talk. But read carefully what I write, okay? And it's funny because I was telling my friend Ian Keenan back in New Jersey. I emailed him the other day. I said, my writing about Black America can probably make up a book in itself. Probably the people who call me Nazi, probably that's the last book they want to see. But, I've written quite a bit about the contemporary Black experience. I interview Black people and let them talk at length. Okay, so, this is, I've done the groundwork. Okay, visit the communities repeatedly, get to know people, interview them, get their opinions. And then, I make some conclusions, okay? But a lot of my writing is just pure reportage of, different Black communities and different Black people. So if nothing else, okay, if you reject my essays or about the Black experience, you can just read about my reports on Black communities and Black people, in which they speak for themselves, and I think that would make a interesting book. I'm sure it will. I'm sure it. Yeah, if somebody, if I can get it published someday, maybe have a book called, the Black experience.
Postcards from Black America or something.
Yeah,
I look forward to it.
America. Yeah, by the neo-Nazi anti-Semite asshole.
Gotta have you in an SS uniform on the front. I'm sure that'll sell. So, speaking of which, I guess now's a good time. What would you suggest if you had to? Either poems, videos of yours, blogs, books. Just pick like a few starting points. What would you suggest? Like ones you're most proud of that you think would get some people hooked on you as a artist.
Well, I think I might have maybe 15 poems online. I don't even know. I don't have that many poems online. But the last 10 years or so, I've been mostly writing political essays. So just go on Un's Review, and just and the last several years, the focus has been more on international places. My postcards book came out last year, but the work that I did on that I mean, I did it until I left the United States. I was still writing postcards, but lately there's been more international postcards. So if you go on interview, you can read about my reports on Cambodia and Japan and places, yeah. So basically, I'm working towards a book of international postcards. I'm not sure I can find a publisher at this point because I'm pretty much like untouchable at this point. So, but yeah, I was working on a book of international postcards. So I've written quite a bit about Germany because I was there for a little while. I've written about Spain, France. I wrote a postcard on Turkey, on Ukraine. I visited Ukraine. So many of these visits were fairly brief, but I think but same with my postcards in the United States. I don't have the means, I don't have the money to spend, say, a month in the Ukraine, or what have you. I mean, I would love to spend more time in each of these places. So anyway, if you go on Unreview, I'm a columnist there, so you can read. I mean, I've written, like the last month I wrote, I don't know how many thousands of words. I wrote, I think 6 pieces, and each one of them are like 2,000 words or something more. So it's like 10,000 words last month, and mostly about the Vietnamese village that I'm living in. I'm in Saigon right now for the New Year, but I'll be back in this place that most Vietnamese never heard of either. No one's ever heard this place because it's just there's nothing to recommend it. But I think that's why it's so special, because there's just regular people doing what they need to do. So yeah, and I'm always finding out new writing. Yeah.
Right on. I'll put all this in the show notes for anybody who's listening.
Oh, and if you want films on Vietnam, Siklo is a good portrait of Saigon.
Right on.
That's the guy who did Santa Green Papaya, but that was the first film was filmed in France, so it's okay. I mean, it's a very poetic film. The first film, Santa Green Papaya, but Siklo is a kind of indulgent film, but I think is a very it's the best portrait of Saigon I've seen, on film. So, and he did a film, Vertical Ray of the Sun. That's a portrait of Hanoi. So Jan Home is the guy's name. So if you want to watch something that's not about the American experience in Vietnam, but just Vietnam as it is, then yeah, go to Jan Home.
That was one thing that was on my mind. I wanted to ask you. So speaking of Vietnam War movies, I read your review of Apocalypse Now, and it seems like most Vietnam War movies, basically, in my opinion, the way you described it sounds about how my American public school education was. It's basically we're the piece of shit at the center of the universe. All we learn about is how white people are evil and we're just the worst, it's the worst nation ever. But it's only about us. We don't learn anything about European history. We don't learn anything about Asia. In Vietnam, it was all us. And it was kind of a weight lifted off my shoulders, or my consciousness, to hear you say, you were kind of downplaying. You said, God, it's kind of you guys think the war was all about you, but if you look at the numbers, it was it was within your own people's conflict. It was a internal conflict. The Civil War, the deaths show it's between North and South, and there was a few Americans we were helping, but we kind of inflate our egos, and we think that it was all us. And so that was kind of a weight lifted off my shoulders. And I wanted to say, I'm not sure where my loyalties lie, because again, American foreign policy has been generally shit for the past 100 years, increasingly so. Vietnam, I'm kind of conflicted, and there's 2 things I wanted to say. One anecdote really quick is that I was teaching in some podunk town way out there, and after I'd already lived in Vietnam for like a year and a half, I left to Japan, came back. So I'd already kind of experienced it. So I didn't have that when you first go to a country and everything's like, ooh, rose-colored glasses kind of thing. Ooh, this is so shiny, everything's nice. I was just kind of there doing, going the rounds. And the teacher's assistant was inviting me to his house to eat. And I thought, he's just being polite. He's just being like, it's just formalities, but I guess I'll go. I was really not being appreciative. I was basically being a piece of crap. And, we're riding and it's raining I'm on the back of the motorcycle. I get there and I get to his house, and his father, so this is South Vietnam. He's shirtless, and he comes in, and they're very nice, and they bring out their food, and it's delicious. It's rolls and everything like that. and I see he's got scars all over, and it's bullet holes, like bullet wounds. And he tells his story through his son, translates, and it broke my heart, man. He basically described how he fought with the South, and he was very kind to me. And I think maybe because he fought with GIs or something, who knows? Or just Vietnamese are very kind to Westerners. He described how he, after the war, when Americans pulled out, we went back on our word, basically. The North came in and started just decimating, and he was put in prison, and for years. I think I don't remember. It's been a while, so I don't want to say for sure, but I think it was like 10 years, 8 years. It was an insane amount, and he was just basically tortured and just horrible pain. And I felt, again, not trying to be, but feeling more and more as my eyes open. I feel a bond with my people, my nation, and becoming nationalist. I feel that's an extension of me, and that's my uncle was in Vietnam. Like, God, I wish, this is kind of the downfalls of democracy. We should either stay the hell out or, stick with it, go in, Russia style, go in and help and finish it. And I don't know, I'm just conflicted because part of it, it's a complicated thing. Communism, the more I learn, the more the less you know. The more I look at communism, I think, all right, well, maybe that was worth it. What I learned in public school is that it was all just fear mongering and communism was no threat. But the more I learn, I go, well, actually, communism kind of was a threat. And there's a song, I'll play it right here. It's a Russian song. So talking to a Russian here, he's very patriotic, and he's he's an older guy, and so he loves Stalin, and he's basically anti-American foreign policy as well. So we bond on that, but again, it's conflicting as an American. There's a song called Chishin. It's the artist is Chishin Ko, and the song is Phantom, and it's a folk song that they covered. It's a metal song, and it's about the Phantom jets that the Russians would fly and shoot at American, and it's all kind of, there's no proof of this. I mean, there's some speculation, but basically the Russians are trying to help in shooting down Americans. I love this song. I'm jamming out to it, and I feel kind of guilty because it's like it's Russian anti-American.
Я бегу по выжженной земле, гермошлем захлопнув на ходу. Мой фантом стрелою белой на распластанном крыле с ревом набирает высоту. Мой фантом стрелою белой на распластанном крыле с ревом набирает высоту. Вижу голубеющую даль, нарушать такую просто жаль. Жаль, что ты ее не видишь, путь наш труден и далек, мой фантом несется на восток. Делаю я левый поворот, я теперь палач, а не пилот. Нагибаюсь над прицелом, и ракеты мчатся к цели. Впереди еще один заход. Вижу в небе белую черту, мой фантом теряет высоту. Катапульта от спасения, и на стропах натяжение. Сердце
guess I'm curious, and I know since you're there, you got to be careful about what you say, but you call it Saigon. You said Saigon de Plum, so de Plum. I can't pronounce it, but so yeah. What are your thoughts? I mean, I think a lot of people would be fascinated, and I'd be remiss not to ask you about the Vietnam War. Just what are your thoughts on that? And yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a civil war, but it was also used by the superpowers, by China and Russia and USA for their own purposes. And something that people forget that Nixon went to China, and then basically the Vietnam War was over because there was no reason. I mean, it wasn't Nixon deciding anything, but I'm saying that as soon as the United States start to warm up to China, Vietnam became irrelevant, And there's an incident that no one remembers, but I remember, even as a kid, I remember. The Chinese came down and took some islands from the South Vietnamese just before the fall of Saigon, like, I don't know, maybe a month before, or a month and a half before. But anyway, I wrote about this in my novel. If you want to, I have a novel about Vietnam called Love Like Hate. Okay, so it's about 50 years in the lives of two Vietnamese families. But anyway, so I mentioned this incident in my novel because why did the Chinese come down and grab islands from the South Vietnamese? Because they knew that the South Vietnam was going to collapse, and they had to do it right then. Because if they waited, they could not wait and take those islands from Hanoi, because then that would be stealing from the communist ally, right? So they grab it from the South Vietnamese before Hanoi took over. So, but there had to be an agreement between China and USA, because the US 7th Fleet was all over the fucking place. You know what I'm saying? There was American ships all over the place. And how, the Chinese could not have just gone down and grabbed those islands without American agreement, So, what I'm trying to point out is that, and history has look, I mean, and then it took a while, but, the United States moved practically all of its factories over to China. But anyway, so once USA and China decided to do business, there was no need to maintain the Vietnam War, and the Vietnam War did what it was supposed to do anyway, made a lot of money for the military-industrial complex. Many American wars seems pointless, but it's not pointless when you're making a lot of money, right? So all these wars have been successful for the military-industrial complex, although caused a lot of suffering and spill a lot of blood, including some American blood. But people make money, so that's why the war business is a very successful one for certain segments of the United States. So the Vietnam War the same. A lot of people made a lot of money, and then plus, once the United States decided that it can deal with China, then Vietnam became irrelevant. So the Vietnamese were pawns, but so were the GIs. You know what I'm saying? So, but the GIs, of course, they pawns in every American war. So, and then foreigners also suffer, but the Vietnamese have their own reasons to fight the war. So that doesn't mean that because the United States had imperial designs, that doesn't mean that Hanoi was right. And there were many factions in Vietnam. So, but I mean, Americans don't want to think that deeply into this issue. You know what I'm saying? It has to be, okay, America has to be either good or bad. And right? So if America was wrong, then Hanoi was great. Ho Chi Minh was great. No, it's not that simple, Because like all the religions, for example, well, not all, but the Catholics were very anti-communist. The Cao Dai, very anti-communist. The Hoa Hao, is a Buddhist sect, is very anti-communist. And a lot of the Buddhists were also anti-communist. So there were a lot of factions. There were a lot of groups that were anti-communist without being paid by the CIA. Okay, I'm saying, it's not all because America told them to be anti-communist. They already hated the communists.
And
So
sorry,
yeah.
It's really ironic because now, like you said, you guys have you're more libertarian than America. You can open up a shop, small business in front of your house. There's way more freedom there. So very ironic that you guys are more capitalist in the end. Again, maybe this is back to
Yeah.
the subjunctive, woulda, coulda, shoulda. It makes me wonder what would have happened if we just never went. And
Yeah. And
that's kind
the
of crazy.
problem with Vietnam, the corruption, corruption is a big problem here. Abuse of power. I mean, Vietnamese have always had that problem. You know what I'm saying? So, because they favor their own and they favor their family. You know what I'm saying? So, nepotism. That kind of thinking. So yeah, so it is a flaw and it has to be corrected. But you can't say that the communists caused corruption. The communists caused abuse of power because the South Vietnamese also had that problem. Okay, but if you have a one-party system, then of course it's exacerbated, and that's what we have. That's what Vietnam has right now. So yeah, one-party system is bad. But some of the people who are anti-communist, including Vietnamese right now, they think that Vietnam should look towards the U.S. again. I think that's a very bad idea. But the U.S. is warming up to Vietnam, but to the Vietnamese communists. So that shows that there was no ideological basis for the intervention, because now Obama is posing in front of a statue of Ho Chi Minh in Hanoi, right? And I don't know, Trump visit Hanoi. Well, if you visit Hanoi as a head of state, you're gonna stand in front of the Ho Chi Minh statue. So anyway, American presidents are smiling in front of the statue of Ho Chi Minh. So they trying to sell weapons to. Actually, they are already selling weapons to Vietnam. Because of they're trying to use Vietnam against China, and the Vietnamese are also trying to use the United States as a buffer against China. So it's
that was an interesting thing. Before I went there, I expected to be spit on or something, or I didn't expect it, but it was like just a thought. I thought, or there's gonna be tension. Oh, the evil American, all the brainwashing I saw from the Vietnam War movies. They love Americans there, man. The average, even in the North, there was there's a little bit, but not much. To them, they're like, hey, we won the war. We kicked out the superpowers, the French, the Americans. We're happy about it. We just hate the Chinese because of, like you said, those islands, Chung Sa, that they stole. So they're still messing with them. China is still messing with them, and China's been messing with you guys for thousands of years. So they just really hate Chinese people. Well, that was what I experienced.
It's an existential threat, because China's so close. You know what I'm saying? So they don't hate the French or the Japanese. The Japanese caused a couple million deaths when they were here, during the occupation, during World War II. They didn't deliberately kill 2 million people, but because of the they were trying to grow crop for the military, like rubber trees and and there was some disruption of distribution of our rice. So a couple million people die, Vietnamese die. I mean, but no Vietnamese even talk about that, what I'm saying? So, but a recurring fear is China, because China is right there. Okay, so France comes in, France was here and France gone. Japan was here, and United States. They don't worry about all these other countries. They worry about China. So, and also, the fascination, the infatuation with the United States is also because of American pop culture, pop music and movies. There's a movie theater in my neighborhood, and it's mostly American movies, at least half of them are American movies, So, yeah, American pop culture is very mesmerizing, and the Vietnamese are very seduced, I don't think that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for better or for worse, man. For better or for worse. I think that Hollywood. It's no secret. Hollywood is Jewish as well. So on one side, they're controlling foreign policy, making the whole world hate us. But on the other side, they're spreading propaganda about how it's the best. Captain America. I see it in Russia too. My students, little 5-year-old kids, they got a Captain America doll. I love in Vietnam too. I saw it. So. The American flag. So it's a bittersweet thing. One thing that's inspirational, though, that I think most Americans and people who are nationalist and don't like the oppressor, the imperialist, who feel ambivalent about the Vietnam War, one thing that's inspirational is that whenever people argue with me about the Second Amendment, and they say, you've seen that meme where it shows like a stupid hick, some American hick who's like, I'll fight the government with my pistol, my shotgun, and then it shows the America with this giant nuke and drones, and it's like, well, it's not that simple. If it was, they want slaves, they want slave labor, they want it. If it was just nuking, they would nuke everywhere. Why did Russia lose in Afghanistan? Why did we lose in Afghanistan? Why did we lose in Vietnam because we need people. It's like you said, it's in military industrial complex. Maybe it's more complex. Other countries would nuke us, but it's not that simple. So it's actually inspirational when you see this corrupt empire about to collapse in America and our overlords. Well, if you just hold out long enough, like Vietnamese did, you can have sovereignty. You can kick out some hardcore world powers, and you never know what's going to happen. You know what variables. So I think that's very inspirational, even though I'm kind of ambivalent about the whole war in general. But as you said, it's not really our affair. It was your affair, and we meddled. So right on.
Well,
All right.
yeah. But here's another thing too, Mike. I want to point out too. When France was here, they did this. I mean, they were here almost for 100 years. I mean, that's a lot longer than the United States was here. But Vietnam was not demographically. It was not distorted permanently. Okay. So the culture. I mean, after France was kicked out, Vietnam was pretty much still Vietnam. I mean, there were certain French influences that have remained to this day, but overall, Vietnam the integrity of the country was not permanently damaged. Okay, so I'm pointing this out because I think the United States, as an entity, is being permanently damaged. Okay, so that's not a very that's a pretty bleak assessment, but I think so. Americans should realize that they are being corrupted and destroyed in a more alarming way than even a country like Vietnam that was molested for 100 years by the French. When the French left, Vietnam was still Vietnam, but I'm not sure how much of the United States is left to be saved.
Right. Amen. Demography is destiny. I'm with you. And this is why I'm not sure. And this is why I have guests who are smarter than me, like you on, who I could ask, say, what do you think the future holds? I have no idea. But whether it's a Finland situation where the America is going to balkanize and there's going to be the white, Germanic and Anglo, the founding, what's it called? The founding stock of America. Maybe they're going to have a little ethno-state. People always hypothesize, and it sounds kind of silly and out there right now, but you never know what's going to happen. I do right now think, and this is my standards though. I'm not, people, they say, oh, I'm black-pilled. I'm pessimistic on America. For me, again, this is why I say the kind of the stoic or the serenity prayer that, okay, what can you control? Maybe it's inevitable. Maybe this is the nature of empires and democracy. Maybe it's inevitably going to fall. It's going to get corrupted. These scummy politicians are going to flood it with other demographics who will vote until it just collapses. Okay, maybe that's inevitable. But me and my people, which is why I want to get into that identity, because it's like, how do you define that? But I believe that the founding stock will survive. And in that sense, I'm optimistic. So that, Finland, again, they were constantly being, oppressed as well. And then after World War II, they said, okay, we're our own country, and they do pretty good. They don't have much political sway in foreign policy, and at a moment's notice, they can get cucked by Russia. So it's not great, but they survive. And so I'm optimistic in the sense that we will survive as a people, as a nation. But yeah, America as we know it, no. Okay, I'm totally fine and I guess fatalistic to say, you know what, maybe it's just going to collapse. But it's not. People are I think they're pessimistic in an unrealistic sense. They say, oh, that's it, we're doomed and demography's destiny, we're just going to be all mixed and there's no such thing. No, there's still people, and you look at interracial marriage and stuff. It's not as gloomy as Hollywood makes it seem. Vietnamese, it's fun. Ask Vietnamese people what % of America they think is black. Based on the movies, most people I ask, Russians, Japanese, they're like, oh, 50%. It's like, no, 13%, man. So it's not as bad. That's my thing. Is that there's still a fighting chance, that you can have sovereignty. That's it. That you can have, like you said, the little guy that just leave me alone. Let me have my own little plot of land and I'll shoot you. Don't tell me what to do. If I want to, weld on the side of the street, I can weld on the side of the street. Yeah. And maybe even in Vietnam's case, I mean, it's again, I don't want to get you in trouble, but there's a fairly oppressive government over there, and you guys are doing okay. It's basically I forget which one's which, de jure or I don't know, but it's communism basically in name only. And it's doing okay. Yeah. It's doing okay. You're still, as you said, you are still your people. So in that sense, I think when you lower your standards or change your standards and not this, oh, we're going to take America back, and it's probably not going to happen, but we as a people will survive. I think maybe I'm naive. We'll see what happens in the next 50 years. Maybe I'll go back to Germany. I mean, again, these are questions that I think every person.
Germany's prospects is not looking so great either. Because, seriously,
No, I agree. Damn it. All right. Well, I guess I'm Vietnamese now. I'm burning my passport.
Hopefully, every nation should be able to maintain his autonomy and his integrity, and his heritage, because I mean, why not, right? I mean, like if Vietnamese deserve to hang on to his heritage, then white Americans also deserve, right? So, people talk about Black history and Black power and Black, Black literature, Black this. What about the white heritage? There's nothing shameful about that. I mean, it has some bad moments, but so does every country. I really mean that. I mean, I'm not saying this to be an apologist for evil white people or anything, but I'm saying, hey, every nation deserves to feel good about itself, and there need to be a fair assessment, of his contributions, of his achievements, and his failures and his crimes. So what, I mean, Vietnamese have committed crimes, right? So, I'm not saying so what as like keep doing it, but that's how humanity is. You know what I'm saying? I mean, every country, China, Russia, everyone, Japan has black marks. So what? That doesn't mean that that you should negate yourself and obliterate yourself. That just doesn't make any sense. I'm a great admirer of Japan and Germany. Wonderful civilizations. So, and when I was in Japan recently, I talked about this too, and some of my Japanese friends were rather surprised. I seem to be quite gung ho for Japan, but I'm a great admirer of Japan. I don't see why they should feel guilty about anything. I mean, things happen.
Well, this is the problem, Lin. You don't understand that if white people stop hating themselves, there's going to be another 6 million Jews dead tomorrow. So I'm sorry, dude. We can't do that. We're going to have to just kill ourselves. Too bad, too sad.
Yeah, really.
All right. Well, I'll let you go. I appreciate you taking all this time. I think we got all the books, everything. I'll put everything in the show notes. I really appreciate it, man.
Okay. Thanks for having me on, man. So.
All right. Have a good night.
Maybe we'll have a beer here in Saigon someday, huh?
Hey, please, man. I would love to get some coffee and beer.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to you later.
Okay. All right, man.
I'm on the beat. Tao đâu quan tâm bọn mày nói cái gì hết, mày còn đi kiếm tích càn quân cho tao điều join nè. Tao như vậy từ trước giờ còn gì same shit, làm nhầm vài câu nhưng mà flow là êm beat, dù là vài bí mật để cuộc đời đoán chứ tao đâu biết cái lồn gì về thế giới quan. Tập hơi thở nhắm đôi mắt làm bầu trời để suy nghĩ như mây trôi cái thời loạn, rồi tĩnh lặng và cân bằng trong thoáng chốc đến để rồi lại đi, lại cuốn em về vì mày nghĩ dừng lại chậm rãi mà lại đi. Ta lại đi bước chân thì một tuyến và lối ba hai lại có mà giờ fucker bốn con mắt thì díu quá, nợ đời vẫn đau chịu trả đời loạn lạc, chẳng thể nào mặt thấy những thứ mình đã tình, rồi biết cái nghiệt thành tình yêu tao là nhà dạ kim fucker. Bọn mày nói gì cũng được hết tao đéo feel, hoặc là phát ra âm thanh nhưng tao đéo hiểu. La lần bọn mày làm tao điên đầu, anti-defensive cách mà tao đang chiến đấu. Còn vấn đề nói mãi không sao thì cũng suốt công nợ, cháo nóng cứ hút quanh dần dần thì cũng nguội homie. Cháo nóng cứ hút quanh dần dần thì cũng nguội homie. Tao đã hiểu sao mày đéo hiểu rằng tao đã hiểu sao mày đéo hiểu, tao đã hiểu sao mày đéo hiểu rằng tao đã hiểu sao mày đéo hiểu, tao đã hiểu sao mày đéo hiểu sao mày đéo hiểu sao mày đéo hiểu. Bọn mày đâu cần hiểu tao nói cái gì hết, mày còn đi phân tích cái gì, vứt cho tao ít money để tao lại đi tìm những thứ tao đã tìm. Còn thứ chưa rõ, nó đã ra phim văn học, hóa là nháy mắt mà thả tim. Thực tế thì nó là những mối quan hệ lỏng lẻo dễ buông như cá tím. Mày ông luôn thích tỏ ra vẻ ngoan đạo, tao là cái sức bận hoàn hảo giúp cho một đoạn ra và bơi bay trong dạ dày. Có những lúc gặp nhầm kỷ niệm cho qua ngày. Đời quá hay, xin cho một chàng pháo tay để một con cao chạy xa bay. Tao thua mấy con chó khách chạy vào hùa rồi sóng gió qua đi. Mấy con súc sinh lại bảo đùa là thì đéo nào. Như thế là thì đéo nào. Không có đéo thể hiểu là như nào nữa. Nhưng mày nói chuyện với tao thì nôm na là bỏ con cặc trong mồm ra. Cái đi cơ mãi mày ngáo tao đi tiếp. Mày chỉ còn là chi tiết trong câu chuyện ngày hôm qua. Ăn béo là cái mô lôn gì cả, ngoài cái lôn rách không chích vả, hoặc là một cái lôn sida cuối cùng thế. Có sao đâu, nhà vẫn còn có gạo nấu. Rồi cái gì chưa biết học từ từ, cái gì chưa giỏi để luyện thêm. Chưa giải quyết được thì thư nó cũng là nỗ lực vật thời gian. Chúng béo phải chỉ là từ ngữ. Rồi lại còn có cái nghiệp đời, nó quay lại dần mình như tử. Nhưng có gì đâu phải tư lự, trong tay vẫn đeo con gì cả. Nhưng sư tử vẫn không đập phàm với linh cậu. Bọn mày nói gì cũng được, hết tao đéo feel. Học mày phát ra âm thanh nhưng tao đéo hiểu. La lời bọn mày làm tao điên đầu. Anti-depressive cách mà tao đang chiến đấu. Còn vấn đề nói mãi không sao thì cũng suốt công nợ. Chào nóng cứ hút quanh dần thì cũng nguội không ế. Chào nào cứ hút quanh dần thì cũng nguội hôm ấy. Ai đâu hiểu, nó đâu hiểu.
Để cho tao rap hip hop bị giam sao phát đạn. Qua nhiều thời gian tao trôn vào két đỡ hôm nào khác hay quét đạn. Nhưng tao phone và sâu bên trong cảm thụ yêu rap ở sát đạn. Được nhà đã phát gạt hip hop chỉ một thằng chi dân da đen trở sát nhập. Kệ chân vài tháng TV phát gạt đại cát và mỹ nhân. Cái gì là swag kỳ vì rap từ cách đội sĩ ân. 100 rapper lên đài phỏng vấn 150 từ từ là mỹ tâm. Một chút triết lý đường phố mà cũng đã biết thì khuyên mày chỉ câm. Thời báo mỗi sáng phán như thánh thiếu trực quan nên vinh quang của âm nhạc Việt sẽ đéo có phiếu được mang. Yếu lược trong kinh tế nhưng có khiếu xạo bao tinh tế. Tiếu gạo bốn phương thấy tiếng cười qua từng không tinh chế. Lyric tao tinh chế xin phế tất cả những thằng ngu. Kinh vang rồi tế thế sao nhạc mày ế tới thằng cu. Chi family 3 năm liền cùng nhau tạo nên một đế chế. Lại ghê ghế rồi chăm số ghe triết lý của cả một thế hệ. Âm nhạc tao lạnh lẽo đâu cứng như tảng băng bệ vệ. Dân trí mày không xứng đáng để nghe thì cũng đừng kể lễ với thằng bộ hạ tao hạ bệ rồi hạ bộ tao bệ hạ. Tao cứ thằng đầu muốn sống phải biết tuân thủ với sách tao đề ra. Lần này tao đề qua.
Và vẫn là rap vẫn một beat một mai. Nhà báo thì bla 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 tụi tao thấy tiếc vì mày sai. Đôi lúc quẩn khúc vì viết đầu dê in thịt chó. Nem theo báo có tin hip hop shit tin vịt đó. Không tiếng Việt cho người Việt và vẫn nói thiệt tao không sợ thiệt. Lời lẽ đất tuyệt đã trở thành bất diệt không cho kiểu gì để mà như điểm huyệt tuyệt đỉnh. Chính là tao còn tuyệt chủng là mày định đứng chính đường nào thì thiệt cũng là cày. Vì rap gen one toàn là vũng và lầy. Thêm new school K-pop là một vũng bầy nhảy. Và mày nhớ đừng ăn no nằm báo nếu không thì mồm xưng to như ngậm pháo sao rêu rao méo máu má đúc thối từng vào. Tao đam mê rap là đúng lỗi lầm nào và đó là cách tụi tao sống. Người ta gọi là chất lũ tụi mày cứ việc giống hip hop vẫn là nhất. Đó là cách tụi tao làm đầu đội trời chân đập đất. Và tụi tao không phải người phàm để hip hop dễ bị mất.
You're expecting bling and swag, but it's not what you thought. You should be glad to see so much realness on in one spot. We kill beats, bury them and then wait till the raw. Part 2, resurrect the rap, believe it or not. We in the underground where we write, record and edit while the industry is using it and taking all the credit. Yeah, I've said it. We're here to keep it real, not to sell it. We keep the shit alive while the others try to kill it. Now wait. Focus and listen, cause you think I'm just bringing flow, but there's actually a big message that you're probably missing. No, with no one is the industry I'm dissing. Educating your ears for years, my mission. You say that you're street, but come on now, stop it. If you really have a gun, let me see you pop it. If you had one in your hand, you shake so much you drop it. Some listen with their eyes, yeah I got it. They wanna see you kneeling, hiding all your feelings. Stay quiet while they're stealing, be the scar that's never healing. Some are wanting me here, others hanging off a ceiling. I'm a motherfucking thug, but music's what I'm dealing. I'm talking for the deaf, so they hear my rap and skip. They turn us into slaves, so addicted to the whip. When they shut me up, coming so my lips sick rhymes. Only what I spit, big times, what I never get. They say we spread violence when all we do is art. Wanna take it off me, then you better start ripping up my heart. Lock me in the dark, fuck the charts. Fuck being like the target where the corporation shoot the darts.
Tụi tao đã tồn tại ở trong âm thầm, nên được ra vì rap và chúng mày ví là cái công ngầm. Ngày ngày nhìn mày rap vô hồn như xác sống, bày hay một đống con lai để cùng huyết thống. Đối với mày tụi tao là khát vọng, chinh phục sự khác biệt cũng như giai điệu này ám ảnh cả trong tâm trí mày hàng ngày như nỗi sợ gieo rắc từ những oan hồn trên chân gác trống. Ta đưa mày từ thế giới của người sống đến nền móng tàn bụi đế chế của người chết. 10 năm việc rap chúng mày nghĩ là đã hết, nhưng hồi kết nào cũng để lại dấu vết cho sự bắt đầu. Cứ nhai rap tụi tao chỉ giống trong nó lai lái lại thì cứ hút luôn trên ống, mà đâu có ai ái ngại có lại miệng to lo phóng thì ắt ngày mai mày bái lại tượng đài việc rap chính thống. Chơi với vần với nhịp, tụi tao là những nhà thơ của thời đại khi tụi mày lần tới kịp cảnh giới này. Có thể tao không còn ở đây, ngước lên mây kêu tiếng huyền thoại. Nói thiệt, đéo bịp, tao mở một không gian riêng, bình yên giữa Sài Gòn nhốn nháo nhào nhao. Tao thu mình rap thiệt tình và nhìn bao chương trình đốt pháo tào lao về cách để rap nực cười nhưng không thể đáp. Thôi thu mình yên bình, dạo này hơi nhiều mũi giáo vào tao, không liên quan nhiều người nghe tôi được hột cháo nào sao. Nên cứ chửi tâm sự tụi mày chỉ tổ tốn máu đào ao, và tao cứ ngồi nhìn đường không squat. Bình thường vậy mà tao nói tao đang rap có ý kiến. Trình phường còn mày rap nhiều, rap dữ vô nhưng không đủ đô. Phí công nhét nhiều chữ vô mà trí nông như bông hoa Mỹ đâu che được bản chất hàng của Lý Thông.
Và linh hồn tao lại cháy như phù thủy thời Trung Cổ. Lúc mọi việc tốt đẹp bị thằng mặt lô nào chẳng tung hô. Nắng nhiều, mưa nhiều, không chấp nhận thì cũng hiểu, nhìn nhiều. Và có lúc phải nhắm mắt thì mới thấy để tai đấy, mà có lúc phải bịt mồm để lắng nghe. Suy nghĩ nhiều mà chẳng đi đến đâu như thằng que. Đừng có mẹ nó lại cho nó khỏe, cứ đẻ ra để vấn đề nó o que. Linh hồn tao là cái tổ ong vo ve, ý nghĩ tao tiếng vo ve. Chuyện đấy, biết thế, để đấy, nhà mày biệt thức thiết kế, ghê đấy, to nữa, gần bằng cái đầu buổi tao. Đây này mày cái, tao vừa ngồi hút cần vừa vẫy tay. I'm good bro, chỉ là cái lựa chọn thôi. Ok là ngon rồi chứ ai biết khi nào chú thợ săn trở thành con mồi. Thời gian là sự thay đổi và đam mê vẫn còn trôi sau ngọn đồi. Thời gian là sự thay đổi và đam mê vẫn còn trôi sau ngọn đồi. Vậy là mày lừa tao hả partner? Bởi vì tao là một thằng ngu hả? Cùng làm đó là cơ hội hoặc là cái cơ, chứ nó đéo bao giờ là lý do. Tao hiểu rồi, và mày thì cũng nên hiểu dần. Bọn mày bảo thế là khôn, ta thì vẫn gọi đó là cái việc làm của bọn tiểu nhân. Thì thôi bớt rồi mình đi, đời mày sẽ sang trang khác. Bảo chưa có đúng sai cũng có lẽ chỉ vì mình có đang lạc. Thì dù có làm đúng hay sai cũng vẫn lạc. Hồn xa để đôi ba luôn cầm sốt nó dần xác, rơi vào vòng tay quỷ dữ để cám dỗ và dễ dãi lại kết nối. Để rồi sống như để sợ chết trôi. Bọn mày bước trong vòng lục quần tức là không đi, đôi bàn tay bối rối bận rộn gì đó nhưng chẳng làm gì. Mồm mày có mấp máy nhưng nó đéo phải thứ mày nghĩ. Tao ngày trước sẽ đứng dậy và quay đi, chỉ là muốn hiểu thôi nên lắng nghe. Biết đâu một lúc nào đó cảm thông nó đến trong lặng lẽ. Lãng phí không khoảng thời gian, vô nghĩa không một chặng đường. Tự do không phương hướng, đã biết làm gì với năng lượng. Vô số khả năng và muôn vàn cơ hội, mà cái đấy không có lại lan man. Tự do nó chưa bao giờ là an toàn. Mâu thuẫn làm phân tích ra, tự do là tự có trách nhiệm với việc mình làm. Mâu thuẫn lắm. Tự do là tự có trách nhiệm với việc mình làm. Mình tự do do tự mình. 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 Mình tự do do tự mình.